In 1933, English novelist James Hilton released Lost Horizon. The book was not very successful on initial publication, but the author's following work the next year, Goodbye Mr. Chips, was a sensation, and as a result, readers flocked back to the tale of Hugh Conway and his fellow travellers who survive a plane crash in the Himalayas and find refuge in the miraculous Shangri-La. He was a wanderer between two worlds and must ever wander. What made Lost Horizon an even further sensation was that it was the first mass-market paperback ever, which caused it to sell by the millions. The author spoke about the novel's creation himself in 1950.
Lost Horizon was written in London 18 years ago during the winter of 1932. That was a hard winter for the world. The lowest point, had we then known it, of the Depression, and already dark with the threat of war to come. About that time, it probably began to dawn on civilized man that he lived in an age of recurrent and deepening crisis, that military victories did not bring peace, that his world wars would have to be given numbers, and that nowhere on earth was there any place where the storm could be outridden. It was in this mood that I wrote Lost Horizon, and I enjoyed writing it as one may sometimes almost consciously enjoy a dream. I remember taking walks near my home and climbing the English hills with wild thoughts of Everest and Kanchenjunga. I remember hours in libraries reading tales and legends of the great missionary travelers who explored all Central Asia centuries ago. And I remember when people asked what I was doing those days, it was fun to answer that I was busy on a novel about Tibet, thus leading to the natural question, had I ever been there? I hadn't, and still haven't. And the way things now look, I don't suppose I ever shall. But when recently I saw the motion pictures that Lowell Thomas and his son took during their astonishing Tibetan trip a year ago, I had the curious feeling that I had seen that land before with my own eyes, that I had heard its voices and chants and trumpets, and had breathed the thin, icy air of its mountain passes. And a further strange thing is that I once met another traveller from Tibet, a rather odd fellow he was, and he assured me that he had actually found the lost valley of Shangri-La that I wrote about, a haven of peace and beauty hidden amidst the highest peaks in the world, and that it was all pretty much as I had described it. Of course, I can hardly believe that, but I should like to. I should like to.
Shangri-La quickly entered common parlance and was the original name given to Camp David by President Franklin Roosevelt. The novel also became a passion project for director Frank Capra, who released his film version just 4 years after the novel was first published.
Welcome to Shangri-La. You see, we are sheltered by mountains on every side. A strange phenomenon for which we are very grateful. It's magic.
Shortly after 2 p.m., the warships laid down a barrage as cover for the main landing forces.
Throughout World War II, American soldiers were issued armed services editions of many popular novels by the Council on Books in wartime. Their motto was that books are weapons in the war of ideas. Unsurprisingly, adventure novels proved very popular among the soldiers looking for a bit of escapism, and Rudyard Kipling's Kim, Robert Louis Stevenson's Kidnapped, and H. Rider Haggard's King Solomon's Mines were there to provide it. James Hilton's 1941 novel Random Harvest was also issued, as were several novels by C.S. Forester, including The African Queen and his immensely popular Horatio Hornblower series about the daring life of a Royal Navy officer during the Napoleonic Wars. They were setting off on an adventure, and Hornblower is only too conscious that it was his own fault. Hornblower would famously be played by Gregory Peck in a 1951 adaptation.
Our mission in the Pacific is finished, gentlemen. Thank you for the way you've all carried out your duties. Your conduct today will be brought to the attention of the Admiralty.
What course shall I set, sir?
Course? South, Mr. Crystal.
Very good, sir.
Mr. Gerard, I told you to clear the decks for action in 10 minutes. You did it in 8.
C.S. Forester died in 1966, having written 11 novels and 5 short stories showing the remarkable rise of Horatio Hornblower. Just 3 years later, another author would begin a new set of adventures at sea in the Napoleonic era, when Patrick O'Brian began his Master and Commander series. The novels, featuring Captain Jack Aubrey and his ship's surgeon Stephen Maturin, would continue for 30 years and gathered more and more fans as the 20 completed books were published over the decades. In 2003, a film adaptation was made by director Peter Weir, starring Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany.
Sir, might we press you for an anecdote?
The first time that he spoke to me, I shall never forget his words. I remember it like it was yesterday. He leaned across the table, he looked me straight in the eye, and he said, "Aubrey, may I trouble you for the salt?" I've always tried to say it exactly as he did, ever since. The second time he told me a story about how someone offered him a boat cloak on a cold night. And he said no, he didn't need it. It was quite warm. His zeal for king and country kept him warm. I know it sounds absurd, and were it from another man, he would cry out, "Oh, what pitiful stuff," and dismiss it as mere enthusiasm. But with Nelson, you felt your heart glow.
In 2001, yet another popular story emerged that begins with a shipwreck, Life of Pi by Yann Martel. But unlike Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, the protagonist, Pi Patel, doesn't have to survive on a desert island, but a mere lifeboat, along with a Bengal tiger. The novel was adapted by Ang Lee in 2012, and the film won him the Academy Award for Best Director.
Set your house in order and dig in for the battle to survive. Establish a strict schedule for eating, keeping watch, and getting rest. Do not drink urine or seawater. Keep busy, but avoid unnecessary exertion. The mind can be kept occupied by playing card games, 20 questions, or I Spy. Community singing is another surefire way to lift the spirits. Telling stories is highly recommended. Above all, don't lose hope.
Tales of adventure continue to entrance readers just as they did in the time before multi-million-dollar film adaptations. Nothing, it seems, is as powerful as a reader's imagination when they're taken on a journey by a great novelist.